It is a privilege to introduce our first Harvard Medical School Class of 2019 speaker, Robert Weatherford. Rob was raised in Wyoming and attended both Brigham Young University and the University of Wyoming, where he received a degree in English and Spanish. A few years after graduating, he found a job at a primary care clinic and decided medicine was the path for him. After completing his pre-medical classes and a post-baccalaureate program at Johns Hopkins University, he came to Harvard Medical School, where he's mostly known for his bad puns and his interest in women's health. He will begin his residency in obstetrics and gynecology back at Johns Hopkins next month. His remarks are titled, "The Debts We Owe." Please join me in welcoming Rob Weatherford.
Familia et amici. Just kidding, this address is in English. Friends and family, thank you for being here to celebrate with us on this special day. It is an honor to address both those people whose goodness has sustained me over the past 4 years, as well as those who have sustained them. Today marks a momentous occasion, both for the newly minted doctors, as well as society at large. For as of today, we are legally required to identify ourselves as doctors on airplanes when an emergency arises, which is why I recommend that all of our farther-flung guests immediately take out your smartphones and cancel your flights home while you can still recover travel points with your airline and get a rental car instead. Today, a swarm of enthusiastic, half-baked competence is unleashed upon the world. Thank goodness for mandatory residency training. When I realized this morning that my speech was running contemporaneously with Angela Merkel's, my first thought was to doubt the judgment of you all, my beloved audience, for choosing to hear me over the most powerful woman in the world. So I promise to make your attendance here today worth it by announcing in this speech my candidacy for the Democratic 2020 presidential race. Given the absolute paucity of qualified candidates this close to the elections. The debt we graduates owe today is at least two-part, three if you include the unfathomable sum of money here owed to Uncle Sam that might better have been spent, I don't know, purchasing a small country, or perhaps investing in Twitter, the unexpected new platform for declaring domestic and international policy. Our first debt we owe to our patients, who have earned their homophonic name through the patience that they have showed us as they've taught us medicine through their lives and conditions. We obediently inquired of them all, even those simply complaining of a headache or a broken bone, whether they had sex with men, women, or both, and sometimes subjected them to multiple prostate exams because we just weren't quite sure what we were feeling up there. I will never forget two patients who I want to mention today. The first is a proud Venezolano man who fell ill with pneumonia while visiting his recently immigrated family in the United States. His symptoms were manifestations of an as-of-yet undiagnosed metastatic cancer that left him so debilitated he couldn't return to Venezuela to spend his final days on the beaches there, his dying wish. We instead arranged for hospice for him at a house on Cape Cod, and he passed away with his family, not at home, but nevertheless hearing the waves of the same Atlantic Ocean he loved. I wept for him and his family at his memorial service on the Cape. Another patient who stays in my mind is a woman who, after adopting 5 children with her husband due to their infertility, surprised herself and her husband by becoming spontaneously pregnant years into their marriage. I grew close to her and her husband through her lengthy labor and got to be the insecure but thrilled person to deliver that gift of a child into the world. Whether witnessing our patients' deaths or their births, we students have all cried for and silently celebrated with our patients more than we ever allowed ourselves to show. To our patients, on this day we are humbly grateful. Our second debt is to our loved ones, parents, siblings, spouses and partners, friends of all stripes, who have buoyed us up over our entire lifetimes, and especially during the sometimes turbulent waters of medical school. Among just my friends, we have in our audience today a father who raised his 2 sons, both of whom are doctors as of today, after losing his wife to complications of a long-standing illness. We're privileged also to have in attendance a single mother who worked as a cashier in Ohio to support her son, who as of today proudly has become a Harvard-educated physician. The sacrifices represented under this tent today are countless and untold. My gratitude extends deepest to my own parents. Just 2 weeks ago, my mother earned her PhD at age 58, a feat she undertook after raising us 7 children. My mother was the reason I know that the future is female, and she was the original impetus for why I proudly chose obstetrics and gynecology as my medical field, so that I may do my part to be 2 of the hands that help to usher that future in. My father, the most intentional and values-driven man I know, is also the man whose unending faith in and love for me is a testament to the fact that love is the strongest force on earth. Both my parents have always chosen to love the son they were sent, even when he differed from the son they expected. Mom and Dad, I love you both beyond my ability to say. Isaac Newton wrote in 1675 that, quote, "If I have seen further, it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants," close quote. Though he was alluding to his scientific accomplishments, his metaphor applies to us today, and our parents and guardians are those giants. We were cradled at your bosom, we learned to walk in the guiding clasp of your hands, and we were succored during our hardship in the arms of your embrace. Thus, I would like to offer an emendation to Newton's words today. We are not simply standing on your shoulders, you are holding us there. Classmates, among the many things that today represents, one of them is certainly the expiry date on any of our excuses for accepting the world's ills as they are. Having been granted our wish upon a star when we were admitted to Harvard, the world has bestowed on us one of its highest privileges in the form of the education we received here and the degree conferred on this day. The world's many problems cry out for solutions, and who better than us to use the gift of this education to help solve them? My own field of obstetrics and gynecology is rife with them. The advancements of modern obstetrics have plummeted the maternal mortality rate wherever these advancements have reached, yet Black women in the United States die during or around the time of childbirth at 3 times the rate of their otherwise matched white counterparts, a modern-day disgrace in our field. The oral contraceptive pill gave women unprecedented control over their bodies and the creation of their families, yet too many women today worry about declining fertility in their 20s and 30s as they work to build the careers and find the partners that equality is finally permitting them. If it is not the people under this tent who are called to help solve these problems, then who? It is our sacred responsibility to uproot systemic racism from medicine and other American institutions. It is our holy task. It is our holy task to develop medical advancements that let women and men start families exactly when they're ready and not a day sooner. The list of unsolved problems in the world is daunting, yet I wake up each morning with a kernel of hope because I know the list of resources and selfless, diligent people we can marshal to solve them is greater. It is our vocation now to be healers of both the patients in front of us in our exam rooms and also the larger society that has given us the gift of this degree and with it this calling. If I have learned anything through my friendships with the remarkable people in this class over the past 4 years, it is that we are capable of rising to these challenges. Thank you to all of you for 4 of the most incredible years of my life, class of 2019. Now let's go forth and be the change we want to see in the world, with a flame of gratitude ever ablaze in our hearts for those to whom we owe our debts.